Yeah, John, really important. I think if you look at the landscape, there's a lot of different ways to go about it, and there are a lot of schools like us that have maybe sunset or closing their prior collective. There's some schools that are keeping those. Some schools that are really leaning into their third-party multimedia rights provider. And we're incredibly unique with the play with Clemson Ventures. That being said, how we think about it, one, the intention of the House case settlement and with College Sports Commission is that the role of collectives is going to look different. So while they still certainly can exist, and again, there certainly are those that are going to function, the role for them to facilitate commercial NIL deals is the differentiator. And so I think for us, whereas 110 Society, which served an incredible purpose in tandem with IPTAY and with our boosters to really generate revenues from a booster fundraising standpoint, that looks very different now. And so for us to lean in and facilitate from a commercial NIL business standpoint, that best aligns with Clemson Ventures. And the fact that that's a in-house nature for us, and that's an entity that already engages, their role is to generate revenue from a commercial standpoint, businesses and sponsorship, so to speak. The ability for us to have underneath Clemson Ventures an agency-type role and facilitation for commercial NIL is the unique strategy. And so, yes, our ability to flow deals through Clemson Ventures is how we're going about it. I will say, too, from our fans and donors standpoint, we're going to continue to need engagement from events that we'll set up via Clemson Ventures and other activities, events, appearances. We're going to really lean into Clemson Plus, which is an existing mechanism that we've had for content and direct share platform for our student athletes. And so how we look to reposition that for donor engagement that think we can facilitate some commercial NIL dollars that way. So it's just very different as far as what collectives or how NIL, commercial NIL is intended to look. And it's going to be more comprehensive in nature. We're thinking about it, Clemson Plus, Clemson Ventures, some appearances and events to be able to build that above the cap type dollars. That's going to be incredibly important.
You said college athletics is dynamic right now. I think others have used, less flattering terms to describe it. How much faith, or what do you make of how quickly things, I don't want to say fell apart, but people are describing it as that, and how much faith do you have moving forward?
Yeah, I don't love the word guardrails, like it just personally. It feels like really limiting in nature for student athlete empowerment and valuation, let alone just how you operate. I get the point of it and the word that's often used to your point, Larry. Structure important. I do think that the House case settlement, creation of CSC, College Sports Commission, and the aspects of scholarship increases, revenue share distribution, those are pretty straightforward, pretty structured. While there's local strategy around how you deploy rev share and all that. So I love the ability to be really strategic and different in how you go about it. The leading edge and really where you're getting at from a commercial NIL standpoint, and we're 5 weeks into the creation and launch of that methodology, that regulation, so to speak. It's 5 weeks in. Like any other startup, there's going to be learning, maturation, bumps in the road. We've seen that, and so I think we're experiencing that. I'm confident that the structure, the innovation of how schools, Clemson in particular, will find the way to navigate within that structure in a competitive way. That's our focus. So we know what the intention and the rules are around, and we're certainly going to abide by those in a very aggressive way. While also, and I'll maybe end in this way, Larry, we're set up to be very nimble and flexible. And as we've seen the rate of change over the past 3 years, and how it's something we've been very sensitive to is our communication or consistency, even to our donors and supporters financially. We're talking to them one thing about, hey, where we need your help in dollars, and then I feel like 3 months later it's a little bit different, and then 3 months after that it's a little bit different. And so that confusion is really hard as we've been managing it, and then we try to simplify it and try to have a very focused message and strategy outward. all that to be said, so we're going to be very direct in that, but also we're just going to have to be very nimble on how things continue to adapt.
As far as playing South Carolina on Saturday, I know Dabo has said he's okay with it. Columbia is not okay with it here. You kind of with him there that never in Clemson on a
Never say never. That's also a Dabo phrase, right? But yeah, that was it was a decision. I know it's had some trailing discussion on it, understandably. But that was that was an opportunity a year ago, or whatever it may be, and we made the decision at that point to for our game here to want to still play it on a Saturday, and obviously the game in Williams-Brice this year is also on a Saturday. So, is that going to come up annually or every year? Not sure, but should it? Like we're gonna we'll make those decisions when it comes up, and so that's not a never say never, but it is part of the fundamentals of the discussions that we had and Coach Sweeney and staff at Clemson was around the importance of Saturdays and after Thanksgiving and what that means for our community and student environment and high school football and playoffs and all that stuff. So there's all those aspects that would continue to be part of the discussion or the decision that we'll handle those when or if they should show themselves down the road.
Alcohol sales, you kind of had a big, week one game for that in football. Just how do you feel about rollout of that, how the pilot program kind of went in the spring, and what people can expect sales-wise and maybe safety and other stuff-wise?
That's right. Chapel, the fan environment safety is going to just continue to be the leading decision matrix on how we roll it out. As we look back for the spring, really pleased with how that rolled out. No significant fan environment or safety concerns. I think it was well managed. We're continuing to staff up towards the management of what that looks like, recognizing that games in the Valley, and certainly the first one has a different order of magnitude. Revenue was significant, about $500,000. Great. That's not the why, but that's a component to it. Look forward to rolling that out, not only just in football, but the rest of our venues this fall as well. So we'll have some information on that coming out.
I know it's hard to look into the future, but let's do it. Let's say that Clemson's ahead of LSU. With 3 minutes left and fans crowd the wall and you beg them not to go, but they go anyway. Do you pay the fine? What happens after that? Do you say, hey, please don't do it again, or do you say, hey, this might end? Like, how do you handle that?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about it, David. We gather the paw tradition is really, really special at Clemson, really unique, and something that, as you saw our statement from a couple weeks ago around the ACC policy, something that we want to continue. Now it's got to look different. We're going to abide by and support the new ACC policy, and so we need our fans' help with that, in recognition of that we're trying to balance respecting the unique tradition and continuing the unique tradition that we have, while also respecting the policies that are at hand and just the safety and environment of what post-game field looks like, particularly after charged games, LSU or otherwise. So all that to be said, yeah, we are working on what the sequencing and what post-game process looks like. Certainly over the coming couple weeks, we're going to communicate to the fans of what that looks like. I'll double down and say it again. We need our fans' help and support and recognition of that. And it's a really passionate topic for me, too, in particular. And so we're going to manage each game as they come, 7 a year, maybe more, depending on playoff circumstances. And so those are our expectations for the first one, for our LSU game. And we'll go through our post-game sequencing and respect and manage from a safety and an ACC policy standpoint, see how the first game goes, and then continue to adapt and adjust from there. And here's the other thing. It's easy to think through 7 games at Memorial Stadium, and certainly the first one, but it's also Little John and, all of our venues. But we've certainly had our fair share of environments and court stormings and that type of celebration in Little John as well, to the credit of our men's basketball program in the last couple of years. And so those type of event management aspects for all of our venues, obviously Memorial and Little John being the 2 primary, are really important that we communicate and clear and ask for the support of the fans and the students, right? Students are so much of the leading charge for that in all those venues. And so it's a really highly focused task for us over the coming couple weeks.
Do you hire extra security, extra shirts down there?
Yeah, we're gonna absolutely. We're staffing up, and we're gonna reconcentrate them what that looks like post game, and then even like from an egress standpoint afterwards, it's going to look a little different because we would anticipate there's going to be less fans on the field, right? Given the policy, and so what does that look like as we're all leaving and heading to parking lots and Williamson Road, Centennial Road, and the pedestrian and vehicular circumstances. So there's also not only after triple zeros, what does that time look like, but the dominoes out that it's just going to be a different environment that we're responsible for all of that driveway to driveway.
You guys announced Clemson Ventures announced a jersey patch for the mascot, but no event held. I guess.
That's right. Yeah.
For future sponsorship opportunities, maybe on the field or around Memorial Stadium. I guess, are you guys exploring those aspects as to gain more revenue in this house settlement area?
Yeah, Darian, great question, and we were proud to roll out the Novant partnership. And the unique strategy with the jersey patch, but albeit on a mascot. Yes, the opportunities to generate revenues with the commercialization of that is part of Clemson Ventures strategy, but in a really thoughtful way. And we have Frank Howard Field, Memorial Stadium, so there are non-negotiables for how we go about it, but thoughtful and strategic partnership and sponsorships is certainly part of it and part of the auspice of Clemson Ventures. So we are having some conversations around that with some potential partners for as early as this fall for Memorial Stadium. There's been a partnership logo on the court in Little John, so these things aren't foreign to sports or even Clemson, but in a very measured, strategic way is how we're looking to go about it.
Is there any thought of phasing back in